Welcome to the Everyday GSD podcast. Today we have Dr. Alice. I'm going to try to pronounce this properly. Atalanta.
Into it. I like it. It's
Atalanta.
Give it. Yeah.
Yeah. How did I do? Not good at all.
Give it to me. No, you killed it.
Yeah, you killed it. All right. Well, I've got a laundry list of accolades for you and an amazing brochure because you are one of the speakers here at the Special Forces Association conference. And I know we don't have a lot of time, so this is going to be a shorter podcast. We're going to try to get as much information out of you or to me in the next 30 minutes because you got to go on stage or you've got stuff you have to do. But I do appreciate you taking the time out of your day. And I actually appreciate you taking the time out of your life to come here and be part of this organization. I'm just going to give some highlights, and then we're just going to dive into you, if that's okay. You've spent over a decade working with special operations community, emphasizing specifically on the Green Beret community. You're a sought-after ghostwriter. You're a collaborator. You're an editor. You've got books everywhere. We can talk about that, but you're inspired by special operations, and that's kind of your thing. Is that correct?
Yeah. I love to work with excellent people who are at the top of their game. So it puts me right here.
I love it. And of course, you're a doctor. And I think when I met you the other day, and by the way, I enjoyed the conversation we had. But when we talked the other day, I was like, oh, you're a doctor. And your answer to me was, I'm a doctor, but I'm not by practitioner, but by education. What did you say? You said something, and I was like, I really enjoyed it. And I was like,
so funny.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel the need to qualify that sometimes because being a doctor, philosophy is not what people expect.
Right. And I want to hear about your story. Eve is the one who told me that you need to be on the show. And the show is obviously about everyday GSD, people who get shit done. Yeah. And you are clearly one of them, sharing stories about special operations and specifically Green Berets as a ghostwriter and a regular writer too. Is this the right terminology?
Absolutely, yeah. I do a lot of editing too. So a lot of times, there's so many people in this community with stories to tell, and they have a manuscript or something they've worked on, and I come in, and people sometimes say, if I have to give you the elevator pitch for what I do for a living, I say I do the cool kids' homework, because that's really what it is. It's like,
I love it.
Guys outsource their academic needs to me, and I'm kind of the brain for hire that's, helping bring those ideas to fruition.
Yeah, those stories alive.
Yeah, sometimes they need finishing touches, and sometimes they need the whole shebang.
I love it.
Yeah.
So when I wrote my book, I had a ghostwriter / a collaborator is what I say. Mm-hmm. Robert Conlon, he's a great guy out in Maine, and he threw this at me one day, and I said, I everyone's going to read this book and be like, Darren, did you write that? And he's like, well, you did. And he goes, but what I'm doing, he goes, you're bringing all the wood to the house, and I'm going to build the first floor and the second floor and put a roof on it. You're giving me all the information, and I'm going to make this story presentable. Yeah. And in your world, Robert Conlon was my ghostwriter, my collaborator. Awesome. So I appreciate what you do to sharing people's stories. But the show is about everyday GSD, and I want to hear your story.
Yeah.
And my audience does too.
Okay. But just real quick.
Take your time.
Or take my time. I've been thinking about my grandpa a lot this week because he was 99 when he passed away. But he was
99.
99. Sicilian guy, lived on his own till the very end. World War II Army vet, amazing person who had a huge hand in raising me because he was on the street where I grew up. And talk about the guy that gets shit done. Right? Those those World War II guys did not mess around.
Cheers.
But I was absolutely cheers to Papa.
Cheers to Papa.
Absolutely, Papa.
Yeah. Yes.
But that World War II mentality, my mom was a baby boomer, and it was everybody contributes to the war effort. There's a mission, and we're patriots, and I was raised to be a patriot between my mom and my dad, who was from the South and had ancestors that fought in the Revolutionary War and everything. So I had a very patriotic family on both sides. My dad would take me to the battlefields in Virginia when I was a kid and tell me about Stonewall Jackson. And as a kid, I could feel that energy. The hair stands up on your arms, But as far as serving my country was concerned, I had that first duty to the family, and my my grandfather really wanted a doctor in the family, and if he was going to get one, it looked like it was going to have to be me.
You raised your right hand. You're like, I'm all in. I'm going to be the doctor.
I'm Papa's girl. I was all in. So
I love it.
You know, that's what I did, and I was like, look, I'm not good at math, sir, so that's not going to be the doctor you get. But comparative literature and literary theory stepped in and became the thing. But when I was in school, what I was really doing, and I kind of hit on this yesterday, was I was trying to find the truth. I was looking for answers for me. So I was looking at philosophy and religion and literature and art and anywhere it was out there, poetry. Nothing's off limits when you're doing comp lit and when in the discipline I was in. So it's a very interdisciplinary way of finding the answer to questions. And I was really...
I don't even think I know that word.
Interdisciplinary? Dang.
Justin's like, just shut up, Darren.
So, but I don't want to bore your listeners. What I'm trying to say...
No, you're not boring listeners at all. They love it.
The talk yesterday that I did on philosophy for PhDs who can win a bar fight, that was all born from two things. One is, which I'm a weird PhD because I've had bar fights and stuff before, but number two, that's how they describe the original job description for soft guys, right? They were looking for people who were like PhDs who could win a bar fight. And the ironic thing that somehow gets lost in translation in colleges and everything is that the original Western philosophers and ancient philosophers were so linked into warrior culture. They were so a part of that, the Greeks and the Romans, and they were warriors and statesmen. And so all of this stuff I'd been studying in grad school was germinating, and it was in my mind. And when I was asked to speak at this event, it just all came together, and I was like, that's it. Like, this is what I need to share. You know, I've got a room full of Green Berets that could be 25 and they could be 75. Like,
right.
What am I going to share with all of them? And the answer is, I'm going to go tell you what literally the smartest people who ever lived, who, by the way, were also warriors and statesmen, said about, you know, living an awesome life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And share that right now.
Yeah, 100%.
And, you know, and it's cool because walking around, and, you know, we've said this a couple of times, we're in the safest place in the country right now, or we feel like we're in the safest place because we're surrounded by a handful of a lot of Green Berets and former Green Berets, active duty and retired individuals of all ages. You know, we just had someone on the show earlier who's, you know, probably 30 years old, 28 years old, and then, you know, a guy who's 75 years old. So, and these guys are legit amazing humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks different over time, and it evolves over time. And the thing I didn't expect, but I was so excited about when I gave that talk, was how many gentlemen, especially on the more sage end of the age spectrum, were thinking about, wow, I wish I'd had this when I was younger, or I need to show this talk to leadership because I need those guys looking down the road, or I need my leadership guys in their 30s thinking about this now so that they're in the right place mentally when they hit my age and when they're looking at retirement.
Right.
Are they making the right choices down the road? And it's just, you know, ancient philosophy is such an asset for this community, and it was something I was excited to bring in here.
Yeah.
And it was the challenge I gave myself. I wanted a challenge. You know, everybody's like, you're going to take a room full of snake eaters and make these guys want to read Aristotle? And I was like, you're damn right I am.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like, I came out here, you know, the first night I meet the Special Forces biker guys, and we hanging out and drinking and talking.
Because you went for a bike ride with them, right?
I actually didn't, but I did.
What?
I drank all their Fireball, so I think I earned...
Hi, my name is Justin. I have 3 Harleys.
Yeah,
Hey.
Justin wants
Fireball.
to. By the way, Justin wants to marry you because you hate the Beatles, and so does he.
And she's a drummer.
And you're a drummer. I mean, we've got winning everywhere right now.
So cute.
She goes, "That's so cute."
Well, I know what that means.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Not today.
No.
Not today, buddy.
Stop it. Oh man,
He's got fast cars too.
It's funny, like this community is so awesome. Like you guys, and some of the girls, there's only a small handful of us here.
Yeah.
But they're so wonderful to us the way that they allow some of us in. Like one of the guys today, Brian from the GBF, was telling me, you know, we let you and Alex in. And Alex is the war reporter who's pretty amazing, and the things she's done. But it's such an honor, you know, to be one of those people that they let you in the brotherhood. Like you're going to sit down and they're going to pour you drinks and tell you stories and trust that you're not going to, you know, what goes on stays there and until they tell you that this is to go on the record. And
yeah, exactly.
It's just a real blessing. It's like I've got 2 awesome brothers, but I've got a lot of other awesome brothers here.
Yeah, you have a whole family here.
I do.
And I like what you do because you're sharing people's stories that want to be shared.
Right.
And then you're hearing stories and you're, for lack of a better word, you're keeping them in because you're not sharing them because they're not ready to be shared at that time. You know, and you're sitting here, you know, you've had some drinks last evening with some of the guys that were here later in the evening sharing stories all night. And I asked you, I go, what were you doing up so late? And you were like, we were just talking.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. We were just sharing stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because my grandpa, again, he taught me so much. His entire life was defined by his military service. That was his, I mean, aside his family and his children are obviously the thing he's most proud of. But I mean, that was his identity. And throughout his whole life, he was such an amazing, resourceful man who was always so vibrant and so young in spirit his whole life. So everything he did would go back to contributing back to the Army. But I could see, like, this is important, and it is important to have these stories, and storytelling is healing, and it doesn't have to just happen in a therapist's office, because when you tell a story, you naturally give us a beginning and a middle and an end. You're trying to wrap it up, you're trying to make sense of it, and so just talking is really good for you, like to build that narrative. And in fact, to the point where there was one person, Kevin Fleich, who's a good friend of mine, who's on the board, the Green Beret Foundation, and for a while he wanted to write a book. And so for years, we were working on his story and parts of his story and going over and over again. You know, he was shot, and it was a career-ending injury, and it was a pivotal moment in his life, mentally, physically, for multiple reasons. When we finally got the project done, he had some really big heart-to-hearts with his wife, and he's like, you know what, Alice, I'm ready to stop defining myself by that event. Now I'm okay, and I'm looking forward.
Yeah.
And it was so, like, writing the book was the most therapeutic thing he could have done. But once he was done, he didn't want it to be a book anymore. You know?
Yeah.
It's good. It's
and
good.
if you really think about that, it's touching, because your skill, your education, your ability to share someone's story through the pen allows them to heal.
Yeah. And there's a lot of and I want to say love in a Christian sense, like, I don't know, agape or whatever you want to call it, but, like, I'm not talking about romantic love, but there's this very human, primal connection that occurs. And so there's something in it for me too, because when I write a story, I have to internalize that. And it's not that it happened to me, but it becomes very close and very personal to me. And so with every story, it's like I become more invested in this community. I was joking with some people at lunch. I was like, I'm like a surrogate. You know, because all these guys are like, well, you're going to write my book, you're going to write my book. And I was like, I'm like a surrogate mom. You all want to have a baby. But it's kind of like that. It's, you know, they look at me and they see the book. And that's great, because I told them, like, one guy was saying, well, maybe we should write a book. And I said, no, you showed me something you wrote. You want to be a writer. You don't need me to write your book. Maybe we just need to partner and do a little coaching as friends, like just have some conversations to give you the confidence to realize that you're already doing it. Because
you're writing the book from the beginning to the end. You're just hearing their story, and then you're actually articulating that to the public.
Yeah.
And you dive deep into and I'm making an assumption, you become them in your literal side. So when you're sharing their story, whomever that story is, you're writing it as if you're that person. So you learn as much as you can about that individual, which then you have an attachment to that individual, because it's now part of you, right? Yeah, it's very much walking a mile in someone's shoes, because you have to think about the world as they see it and how they would describe it. And that those pieces are important, because that's not always the way I would see it. So even like the metaphor that someone would use to describe something, or the way it comes out. One thing that's interesting is when guys talk about their traumas, the pace will change of their story. So they'll, it might be very slow, like I was walking along and there was dust on my boots and I was sweating and my pants were sticking to me. And then Joe got shot and Joe was dead. And then the helicopter came, and then time slows down again. It's like, and so I think that in the therapy happens in those moments where I'm like, hey, when you're ready, like, can we go back to that moment, because I need a little more. Yeah. And like each time we get a little more. Yeah. You know, and there's, you know, I'm going to say it right here so that everybody knows they're not alone. Is guys break down all the time. Oh. All the time. Yeah. And I'm so glad they do. It's like, I love to be the person that just, I've had horrible times in my life, and the worst thing in the world is to go through it alone. And sometimes, most of the time, there's truly nothing anyone could say to make it better, and you can just witness it next to them, like, while you're feeling that. Put your hand on their shoulder. Yeah, like, I'm good. We're here. Yeah, that's a great statement.
Yeah.
I have a question for you because you hobby boxing.
Yeah, I love it.
And your involvement in the VA.
I worked at the VA before I went the nonprofit route.
Okay, so how was that?
The VA?
Yeah.
So I had a very front lines kind of experience because my PhD wasn't a clinical degree, so I ended up at GS6 doing beneficiary travel reimbursement and details, which meant I would go to the bedside of someone who had just passed on and help the family with the next steps, and I would release from the morgue to the funeral homes and stuff like that. That was a great honor for me. And so there were things that I was able to achieve at the VA, like I taught some of my fellow staff members how to properly fold and carry a flag around the hospital because there were people there that didn't know and didn't care. And there's veterans in the hallway that were appalled by what they were seeing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So there were some things like that. But also in the travel department, I was able to be on the front lines, sometimes in the front office, and see things like a kid trying to get there for his AIDS medication, and all he needed was a bus ticket, but the VA can't give him a bus ticket yet because some paperwork thing hasn't gone through, and the kid's crying because he doesn't have money for his AIDS medicine. And it's like there were things that were ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the hard part about bureaucracy is that there was nobody in my chain of command that cared to hear about any of that. But that's one of the things I love and why I think I feel I can effectively advocate now for like the GBF, because I can say there are legitimately absolutely many.
And GBF is Green Beret Foundation.
Right, where there are so many gaps in the things that are available to veterans, especially for special operations guys because if a Green Beret gets hurt out in the field, it's the 18 Delta that fixes him up, and it's not all documented. They don't want anybody to know there's shrapnel in their legs because they're going to get sent to Germany and they want to get back in the fight.
Right.
So the guys don't talk about it. It's not documented. And then they go to the VA, and the VA's like, okay, I guess that never happened because you can't prove it.
Believe me, I know.
Right. It's awful.
It's fucking wrong.
Yeah, it is fucking wrong because, I know people at the VA that just knew what to say who, I'm not trying to take away from their service.
Oh, no,
but,
I got it.
A girl from the National Guard who, did what she had to do but never left the state of Ohio and is 100% service-connected for PTSD. Come on.
Yeah.
I know guys that got blown up and they're 70%.
Yeah.
So
wrong.
It's completely broken.
But the system's broken.
It's fucked. And that's why we need the nonprofits. That's why you really do have to support them.
Yeah, 100%. Let's talk about a little bit because I know you are on a time frame because you're extremely busy, and I got the producer Justin over there looking at his clock, making sure he keeps me on schedule. So we're gonna power through a lot of these things. But boxing, it's a hobby.
Yeah, I just love it. I love to fight. I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did you start doing that?
I don't know. Actually, my brother was the one that got me into boxing.
Okay.
He was involved with Money Team and Mayweather Boxing Club and stuff.
Yeah.
And then he started training me to lose baby weight when I was young, and then it just spiraled into something. I got a chip on my shoulder at the fitness gym, the boxing fitness gym.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a trainer there, and they didn't hire me. They hired some skinny bodybuilding chick with
some bimbo.
Big fake boobs and all that. She couldn't punch or anything. Her form was terrible. And I was like, okay. And I left.
She liked the Beatles.
She probably did.
Yeah. No, but I'm reading this thing, and I don't know if you can talk about it or not, but she's got a quote in here where there was no female boxer that you felt was tougher than you, and so you fought a trans person.
I didn't do that on purpose.
Okay.
It was I took the fight. So I won my first fight. It was easy. I won all the rounds. It wasn't easy. It went great.
Yeah.
It was a fair fight. But then
It's a fair fight. Are you a Green Beret?
Right?
Well, I'll tell you about fair fights now, and the answer is maybe. I don't know. Because now I only use unconventional tactics. Straight up.
Doctor, please.
Literally everything I do is a psyop. No, I don't know what that was all about. So it was like the fight card came out. Coaches all start calling each other like they got the pictures wrong. Don't freak out. People call me. Don't freak out. We'll figure out. And I said, actually, that is who you're fighting. The name's Courtney Benning. So we look up Courtney Benning, and that's either a little blonde sorority girl or this dude who was of a different background from the inner city. And it turns out it was the dude. And I don't know what that was about, but I'm proud of it because I ended up working on becoming a boxing official, and so I was ringside for a few more of that opponent's fights, and I never got knocked I never got TKO'd. I didn't get a standing 8 or anything like that. And I watched that person destroy people that are superior technical fighters to me, like people, in my opinion, that could beat me.
Right.
But what it taught me was I needed that encounter for what I do now. Because like working with you guys, working with law enforcement, I had the whole experience of total adrenaline dump to the point where you black out and don't remember. I went to my corner and I was like, what just happened? And they had to tell me what happened. I went through the whole process of like, time speeding up.
It's hard to explain, right?
But then time slowing down. Yeah. And then the moment of like, holy crap, if I don't move, I'm about to get knocked out. And then this moment of blind rage where I went nuts in like the last 30 seconds and saw fear in their eyes when I was done boxing and like it was on. And from that day forward, that's when, I had trained some combatives before, but I fully committed to combatives. And now when I try to work with women on self-defense and stuff, I'm, just open with them about needing to get comfortable with weapons. And I'm honest with them, like your pepper spray and your keys through your fingers and your wishful thinking are not going to protect you from someone that wants to kill you. And I don't know how many girls that are beautiful that have to get taken off running trails and raped and choked in the woods before people are going to like understand to teach them to fight with a blade. Like this girl in Arizona, it just happened. Another girl in Arizona. It's like, I don't understand. And I've done, pistol combatives is fun, but like the blade stuff is, I think for women, super important because we have to consider the range at which we're going to know someone has bad intentions. And it's probably within striking range, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, and don't quote me on this, and listeners are probably going to be like, yeah, you're fucking wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct on this. So if you pull a gun and I have a knife and I'm comfortable with the knife, let's just say I know how to use it, my danger zone to use 21 feet, which means within 21 feet, if I pull a knife on you, and I should be able to, if I know how to use a knife properly, I should be able to cut you, stop you from moving forward within that 21 foot range before you can pull out your gun and shoot me. So if someone says, oh, don't bring a knife to a gunfight, or you hear that expression. But when someone says, okay, you have a knife and you have a gun and 1, 2, 3, go, within 21 feet, I should be able to cut your throat before you pull out that gun and shoot me.
Right. And and
I can.
We were doing that yesterday on the simulator behind you. We were.
Oh, yeah.
And even for me, like, with my hand on the pistol, like I can't draw fast enough. And I was with Green Berets that could barely draw fast enough. That's a quick draw to be able to fight from. And I was lucky to train like with Dynamis Alliance, and Dom Rosso was a dev group guy that was running.
Dev group.
Yeah. And so that Dom's combatives program that he was running was amazing. That training was so engaging, and so it encompassed stuff that you would get from a million other combatives courses. It was just super intense and great. And actually, that's where I met our one mutual friend. Remember, we talked about that.
Oh, yeah, Costa.
Yes, it was the multiple attacker scenario in the MMA cage.
Yes, because you got poked in the eye.
I got stabbed in the face.
Dear, I said poked in the eye. She got stabbed in the face.
Yeah, with Dynamis training blade.
Chris Costa? Oh, no, I'm
yeah. There's two Chris Costas. There's one I collaborate with on some work for Havoc Journal. It's not that one.
No, it's the former team guy.
Yes.
Coast Guard leadettes. Yeah. And he was a pack area guy. After we talked, I called up Marty, my buddy Marty C down in, I don't know if I should say his name. So Marty C down in Florida, Boca Raton. And I was like, hey, I just met this girl. I'm at the Special Forces Convention in Indiana. He goes, what's your name? I said your name. And I probably pronounced it wrong. He goes, no, I don't know her. I go, that's not my story, bro. I go, she knows Casa. He goes, pack area guy. He's an OG.
Yeah. And his dog liked me. That was like my badge of honor that week. No one could get near his dog, and that dog was like all about me.
Yeah, the joke is he was the first guy that grew a beard, and all of a sudden, like, the people in LA were like, we got to put him in a magazine. He's this Coast Guard guy. They hadn't seen someone operate like that from the Coast Guard. But yeah,
that's so awesome.
Yeah, a good dude. Yeah,
he was. He was the one that, like I said, he ran down the street and around the block to get ice on my face. It swelled to like twice its size.
I know we don't have a lot of time, so I want to make sure that your message gets sent out. How are we doing on time, Justin? We got about 5 minutes.
We're good. It's okay if we go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're good.
We got a drink. We're gonna just.
We got to finish our cocktail.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Thank you. So your passion, or your I don't want to say your mission, because that might not be the correct word, but you have a passion for helping the Special Forces community, sharing their stories, and you put that to pen, helping them. So what drives or motivates you to do that? I know you mentioned that your grandfather instilled like the pride for their country and things like that. But you're a doctor. You could be making a lot of money doing other things. right?
I mean, I guess but then none of that matters to me. I mean, you saw the talk I gave yesterday. It's like, there's nothing new under the sun. We know, like, some money makes people happy, and psychologists have proven this. But after a certain point, there's diminishing returns on that. The amount of time you have to spend trying to earn that money doesn't make you happier. But purpose makes you happy. And as a mom, I knew one day I'm going to die, and I'm going to look back on my life. And if I have to look at my kids and say, Mommy wasn't there, you know, the year you were in kindergarten as much as she wanted to be, but I was helping the soldiers, yes, I can say that. I feel like that's a worthy sacrifice. And our nation needs it right now. And things are going down the toilet because people aren't educated, people aren't patriotic, people don't really understand human nature anymore. I think that's part of what drives me. It's not just telling veteran stories, but it's being a mouthpiece for issues that are brought to my attention by members of this community. There are really deeply felt things that people in this community are passionate about that maybe when they're active duty they can't talk about, or they don't have the platform to talk about it. Sometimes it's more well received coming from a woman. Sometimes it's helpful that I'm a civilian because I can speak to both sides of the coin. With my academic background, I can be highly critical of some of the problems that I see originating in academia in this country right now that are hurting. Our soldiers are hurting the whole nation because we're becoming less patriotic. Our children are becoming weaker and weak-minded, and this is all a problem. And it's all originating in the way we're educating kids. And people with my educational background need to take responsibility for that, and they need to grow up and realize what they're doing to our country. They need to look at the actual threats our nation faces. I mean, it's an abomination that any adult with my level of understanding and exposure to real issues could waste time on microaggressions, because we need to be looking at macro aggressors like Russia and China. I mean, the things I've learned this weekend just sitting at a table and listening to a bunch of Green Berets talking about Africa and things that are going on in Africa.
Right.
Most people will never begin to comprehend. Like, this world is so multi-layered. There are so many people behind the scenes doing things that you can't freaking imagine.
No idea.
No idea. And I'm telling people, look, you don't have to do the homework. Don't even have to do the research. I'll do the research, but you've got to believe me when I tell you.
Right.
Like, if I tell you to get your kids off TikTok, get your kids off TikTok. If I tell you to stop nitpicking and fighting with your neighbors over politics because it's actually foreign bad actors that are weaponizing your dissent online and turning you all against each other, listen to me. Because I'm not telling you just because I thought it was cute. I'm telling you because these like high-level agency dudes that can't talk about it publicly told me to tell you.
Right.
I mean, what's it going to take? People don't want to hear reality, and
they don't.
And I'm drawn.
And they're living in a fake world of what they call reality, but it's not real reality. Mm-hmm. Right? Right.
And in this, I was saying yesterday in the talk, but a warfighter, and especially a highly aware warfighter, which is where I would put members of the special ops community, these are people that on the very same day could possibly see the most atrocious, heinous behavior a human being could commit, and the most selfless, altruistic, beautiful act you could ever imagine at the same time in the same firefight. Now, take that, now compare it to modern American society where most people have never even killed their own dinner. Like, we don't even understand that you're eating something dead. And if most people had to kill their dinner, they wouldn't kill it. You know what I mean? They'd be eating something else.
Yeah. We'd have a lot more vegans.
We would. And they'd all want to tell you all about it.
Yes. Justin's not even laughing. He's like, I like a good salad.
Is he a vegan?
No, but he might as well be.
I have no problem with vegans.
Oh, really?
No, I'm just kidding. Justin's the furthest from a vegan.
Okay.
My wife is a vegetarian.
I was a vegetarian as a kid for a long time. I was an ethical vegetarian, I think, if that's what you'd call it, because it grossed me out to think about killing stuff and eating it.
That's her. And she's like, what? She goes, you can eat whatever you want. She's going to sit right next to me while I eat bacon, sausage, and hamburger. And she's like, I'm not eating that, and that's okay. And she'll cook it for me. She's like, that's your choice. She doesn't push her agenda, and she's just like, I don't eat it because her thing. People are like, oh, does she eat cheese? Does she eat this? Anything with a face, she doesn't eat it.
I said that to someone once. My dad's ex-wife's mother got mad at me when I was a vegetarian for bringing something to the table, and we were eating shrimp, and she's like, what do you mean you can't eat shrimp? Shrimp's not meat. And I said, I don't eat anything that has a mother. And I was so proud of myself. It was like the dopest thing.
Yeah. But she eats eggs, though. But it's an egg, you know?
Yeah, it's fine. But I think, look, what you eat. This is the whole thing in our country right now. You know, I was talking about Jefferson and Adams yesterday and saying they disagreed on politics and they had this ongoing back and forth about their disagreements their whole lives. But that's what that's supposed to look like. This is how we get to right. We were supposed to need two parties so that we could hopefully check and balance each other. Yeah, and instead we've just turned into a bunch of dirt bags and everybody's lazy.
A bunch of bitching, complaining, whining little asses.
Yes, who live in their little like totally lacking self-awareness in their social media bubble of like self-selected propaganda. And there's no, you know, everybody's in the echo chamber, and it just reinforces how mad they are at everybody else, and it's freaking absurd.
It is absurd. And you also have a hobby. When I was doing a little background check on you, poetry.
Yeah. What did you read about that? Did I write poetry? Which poem did you read?
What's your favorite one?
I won a prize for one when I was in Italy studying abroad. I wrote a poem. For Pippi.
It's really beautiful.
Oh my God, you brought her out, my mama.
It's really beautiful. It's a beautiful poem.
So this is her. This is my girl Pippi. Wait, I gotta take my jacket off. My Mustang, Pippi. So I rescued a Mustang from Wild Horse Rescue Center in Florida, run by Diane, and they're amazing, and their horses are amazing. I'm on my second horse from them.
Talk about a GSD person.
Hello. How long's the poem, Justin?
I was going to ask to read it, but it's longer than probably. I mean, if she wants to read it, it would be great. You want to read it?
Would you mind reading it?
Sure.
If you don't want to, Justin can read it. He's really smart.
Do you want to read it?
Justin's really smart.
What if people listening don't like horses?
Then they can shut the fucking show off.
All right.
Am I going to cry?
I might cry.
Yeah.
Okay.
The third time today.
Yeah, it's like, y'all making me cry here.
And just so you know, the scrolling is 2 fingers on the pad there.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
Live.
When I said that one wild day, it was the freest either one of us would ever be again, I was wrong. You are more free now. You're the wind, the sun, my heart, my breath, and the mountains once again. Mare spirit, war pony. Ears up and a stomp. The manifestation of wisdom, a living mystery, neither here nor not here. I seek you in that eternal space. My senses remember the deep fur of your wintry withers as they soaked up my tears. Your scent, your wax, your dust, and your thick forelock. Did you roll? And then, when you said I'd cried enough, you shifted your gaze to the sky forest horizon, listening to unhearable things, psychic things, eyes concentrating. Mare up, Alice, you said in the pregnant silence. Primate that I was, fingers sorting fall morning burrs from your forelock. Did you find the alfalfa that I planted? Equine that you are, patient in the timeless realm of your cyclical days, you could be both humble and regal, as much a part of the landscape as the ancient clay, or my summer tomatoes and that one pumpkin I'd discarded, now growing strong out behind the manure pile. Your manifestation transforms my landscape, not only the wild outdoor spaces that test the bounds of my strength and patience, all just home to you, Mama, but the inner me-scape. You formed me as I molded myself to you and watched for your lessons until we fit together like a dovetailed joint lovingly forged by an old craftswoman's hands. So now I call upon your mare wisdom, Mustang wisdom, wild, free, strength, and patience, your tolerant trust but defending the boundary, guardian of the herd, warrior queen, breath on a frosty morning, soft nickering in the night, ghost horse, a white face in the darkness, loud human, your instincts chided me, silent drinker, soft black teats, precious legs and hooves, and that Mustang mane and tail you so generously and bravely offered up to the children for the sake of their joy. My partner, my goddess, my heart's home. When we traded breath, I took you in. You're living in me now, and I hope that you have me with you too. Run me free across every horizon in your herd. Show me your mother and father and grandparents. Fall in love, run wild and be thundering. Carry me with you on the inside as weightless as breath. I don't want to be a cowgirl. I want to be a Mustang. So this is what wild means. They can never catch you again. I'm infinitely and eternally yours. Ho Tadeska. I don't know if I ever read that out loud. That's my girl.
That's actually amazing. Justin, you want to grab your computer?
That's
good. There's 150 plus or minus Green Berets that just heard that over the PA system because we're obviously recording here. They can hear it, and I can tell you they all got quiet. That was beautiful. You're extremely talented.
Oh, it's just an expression. I think like anybody. I'm not a good dancer.
You probably are, though. You probably are.
like.
I mean, if you can box.
It's like if you see a running back, like it's like poetry in motion when Nick Chubb like blasts through the line and runs it. So I don't know. Everybody like has ways they can express. Like it's beautiful to watch someone who can shoot, like hit everything, smoothly. And so I guess it's just I can express with words, but there's a lot of stuff I can't express with.
Yeah, I think you can express. I think you do a good job at it. And I again, I know you're on a time schedule, so I want to make sure that I respect your time because you are extremely busy, and you're here for a reason, and the reason is to continue to help the Green Berets that are the backbone of our special forces in the communities that fight overseas, but when they come back here to the United States to share their stories and to help them physically and mentally through the pen. And I don't know if that's a proper terminology, but I'm going to use that because I like it, that you share their stories, and I think it's amazing. You truly are an everyday GSD human, and I'd love to have you back on the show when you have more time, and whether that's at my studio or we come to you. But I want to thank you again. I do have a little gift for you. But before I do that, I want to end on this. I was going to end on the poem because it was so good, but I want to end on this. Do you want to share something to the audience in the everyday GSD lifestyle that you live? Obviously, you're a writer, you're a poet, you're a doctor by education. You're helping people constantly, and you have passion and heart that was instilled in you from your grandfather and your family. And you're sharing that with your child as well. But is there a last message you'd like to give to the audience?
I think there was a quote from Cicero that I used in the talk that kept coming up this week when he talked about your work is never done because we're always planting trees for the future generations to enjoy. You don't not plant the tree just because you might not live to eat that fruit. And, for me, it's in changing a life. I love to rescue animals, but as a mom, that's everything to me. All the wisdom I'm seeking and everything I'm trying to do to sharpen myself is to invest in my children and in their future, in their world, not doing things for them, but training them up to be part of a world that's worth being in. And all of us have that. That's what Green Berets are fighting for. That's what the Coast Guard is working towards, that you fought for. And this is what everybody needs to understand is when we're with this community and we're with the tip of the spear is made up of a lot more than just that tip.
Right.
So we have to, I know we all held back from making just the tip joke.
But it's true though.
It's a military podcast, so you can say that here.
Yeah.
But Green Berets are just the tip kind of guys.
Yeah.
But everybody else has a job. So you
I was trying not to say
I know, but you thought of it.
I so much did. It's such a good, serious statement. I'm like, I've got to say just the tip. My mom is killing me right now.
Oh my God.
But continue. But seriously.
No, but seriously. I mean, but the point is like all of us. This is it's a pivotal moment in the history of our country right now.
It is.
We have had some serious high-level leaders this weekend come in here and give us some pretty dire-looking numbers about the future of this country.
Right.
Everything from 250 years into democracy, shit starts to fall apart, to the recruiting is going down for the military. We're having trouble creating more Green Berets. Russia and China have already surpassed us in many military capacities. And the rest of the country is busy talking about transgender people in Bud Light and, transgender bathing suits at Target. I mean, that's
right.
Like the headline right now. We need to start playing the long game as a country, because that's what our competitors are doing, and that means investing in the young kids. So when you're a service member, if you're listening to this, one of the big pieces, the key takeaways from the ancients was in that retirement period, so 45 to 70 is where they put it, but that's about when you're going to get out of the military if you do a 20-year career, right?
Yeah, if you do a 20-year stint, yeah.
Yeah. your job is not done. You have a civic duty to now start to invest in the future of the individuals in this country. So you've got to get involved. It doesn't have to be in a fancy way, but it has to be making your opinions known, standing up for your viewpoints, being a patriotic country, teaching the values that you want people to have, and understanding some of the dangers of this like wanton progressivism that's totally taken over everything. We need you. We need you. Stay in the fight.
That's an excellent message. We need you. We need you to stay in the fight. For all the veterans that are out there listening to this, and all the people that are in the military that are getting out, Alice, your message is fucking legit, and I love it. And I'm thankful that you took the time out of your day, because I know you are extremely busy. But to come on the show, I do have a little gift for you.
I got a free drink out of it, so I mean there was.
That's from Justin.
Thanks, Justin.
Nothing's free in this world.
And Justin's like, you got the free drink because you don't like the Beatles. No, but I do have an everyday GSD shirt.
That is a super rad shirt.
Yeah, I do have this everyday GSD shirt for you, and this beautiful camo hat. This is the new hats that just came out. Cool. I'm giving this to you and from Justin and I from the podcast, because you truly are an everyday GSD human. And our paths will cross again, and we will work together on a project. I can promise you in the future.
Awesome.
But thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It is an honor. I don't think I deserve, but I'm like very grateful to get to hang out with you guys. If at the very least, it's a lot of fun.
And believe me, you deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching the Everyday GSD podcast. Episodes come out on the 1st and 15th of the month. If you want to watch people or listen to people that Everyday GSD, please download and subscribe wherever you listen or watch the Everyday GSD podcast. Everyday GSD.